Good evening, everybody. I'm really excited tonight to be with Chris Jarrett. Chris Jarrett. Now, some of you, I'm sure, know Keith Jarrett. Well, Chris is his brother, and he's just as amazing. And I'm just going to tell you, the music that he does, I mean, it'll blow your mind tonight. So I'm going to guarantee you're going to have strap in because it's going to be an amazing ride. This guy, I mean, Chris has got the technique that we all our pianists wish we could have. He's got amazing technique, but also amazing avant-garde, refreshing views on how to what the piano can do, and also what music can do. And he's a composer on many levels with orchestrations and other things as well. Welcome, Chris. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Very happy to be here, Andrew. Nice to get to know you.
Yeah. Now you're in Germany, so 6 hours apart, but we figured it out, and I'm so happy we got this meeting together. I spent quite a few wonderful hours over the last couple of weeks listening to your great music, and we tried to pick just maybe about 10 or 12 and have excerpts of them just to give people a taste of all the many things you've done. You've got at least 16 CDs out there. I was counting them up, and a great story behind you. But let's start from the very beginning. There's something that you and Keith had for breakfast every day. I don't know what it was, but there's some crucible that you grew up in that gave you this amazing. Well, I have to give you credit too. Obviously, you're wired for this, but I'm just wondering, what was your childhood like? What was it like to grow up in the Jarrett household? Was there music everywhere? Were your parents musicians? I'm just curious as to what how you grew up.
Actually, it's certainly not the way anybody imagined it. When I came into the family, because I'm the last one, and Keith is the
Ah,
first.
uh-huh.
It was a pretty poor family. So when Keith was born, it was with my father still there. My father and my mother divorced when I was 3. So
Oh,
I came
sorry.
to a torn apart family
Oh,
as
wow.
the one who wasn't observed very much because
Yes.
a period of turmoil. So
Yes.
I fend for myself a whole lot more than most of the others, and I connected much more to my grandmother than to my mom, and
Ah,
because she took me aside in these terrible times. But also, my brother was very affected by this divorce, and he actually started jazz when I was born, around the time I was born, or maybe
ah.
3. So, but I don't know exactly how it was before that. There was a little bit more money there before my entrance into
Hmm.
this world. But what there was is a very asocial, yeah, financially degenerating situation,
Oh,
uh,
wow.
degenerating into chaos at home as well.
Hmm. Yeah.
And my wonderful mother, who was fantastic in so many ways, but she was also very challenged by the situation and
I
this
bet.
politics of that time with the beginning of the 60s and then later the Vietnam War challenged us again, and there was a lot of turmoil as to we were like the only ones, or almost the only ones who were strongly against the war in that area. We had a few.
Ah.
So it was turmoil, but as far as the musical thing is concerned, what is of course similar, Keith and I, is that we just simply use music to express ourselves. So that
Hmm.
you would agree 100% with that, and I would agree with that. And of course, if you're born and raised in a time of difficulties, then you will hopefully express that as well as everything else. So I think there's a very deep desire to express. That's what almost all artists have. And we both, I think the musical part in the whole family is just basically a very good sense of rhythm that we all
Hmm.
have purely musically. And yeah, growing up after I didn't, see Keith very much after I was like 10 because he started to move around a lot and he came once in a while for so it was my
I'm sorry.
grandmother.
How different? How far apart were you in age?
Well, we still are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nothing.
Of course. Yes.
It's I think 11 years, something like
Yeah.
11 years.
Right.
You
Right.
know, but
Right.
uh,
That's a
but it's
big gap. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big gap. I never was very deeply into jazz, and but what Keith himself admits in sometimes in interviews, and he did to me when nobody else was there. I saw that he watched for that. Is that his decision to do more solo music had a lot to do with something that I actually improvised before ever having a single lesson. He was very impressed that that was possible. That's what he told me, word for word, and he's also said in interviews, and he thought, man, why don't I? He actually helped him to free himself from both the classical and the typical jazz structures.
Oh, wow. Wow.
that was, he said there were three things that moved him in that direction, and that was one of the three. Another
Oh,
one
no
was,
kidding.
yeah, yeah. So I'm, he never reimbursed me for my suggestion,
You should get royalties.
but I don't need it because I took my own path, and I'm happy.
Yes.
I always say when people talk about any similarities, I don't think there are that many similarities in sense of purely musical, sense. There are some, but not that many. And I think that what is we both have, and I didn't get it from him. It's in every one of us in that family. It's just a very strong desire to express
Oh
how we.
yeah, and I see emotions all across the whole spectrum from you. Everything from very pensive to exciting, and yeah, everything in between. In fact, I noticed one of the pieces is a memory of Irma. Was that your mom?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
our legendary mother who
Mm,
he gave a lot of impulses for all the creativity that.
wow.
But as I said, with all that, she's been praised so much. I'm the one who often, when I was small and still after she died until today, I do have a lot of question marks. And that's why this piece was called Statement, which was kind of to be an expression of love and of some deep questioning that I always had. Like I said, I was taken up by my Slovenian grandmother and
Mm.
actually raised more aside from the other four. I am kind of,
Oh.
I would call myself the white sheep among the black ones, but they were I'm the
Well,
blackie, I'm the
by
white
the way,
one.
I did listen to the whole statement. It's about 10 minutes long, and it covers a lot of emotion. It
Yeah.
covers a lot of it starts out very pensive in a way and thoughtful, and then it gets into some very uh, 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 hyper kind of statements, and I could tell there was a lot going on there. And I can empathize with that. I actually am in the middle of writing a memorial piece for a good friend of mine who recently passed away, so I know the emotions you go through when you're doing that. And what you and Keith do have in common, though, is amazing technique. So I don't know whether you have fast twitch muscles in your fingers more than the average person, but the two of you are amazing on the keyboard. So we're going to go into that and watch some of that. And in fact, let's do this now. Let's go to the first one, which just really caught my eye. It's called Transitions, and not only do you have this pyrotechnic technique going on, but then you use your arm to actually hit some of the notes, and it gives a very interesting effect. And is there anything you want to say about that piece before we play it?
Well, it's the oldest piece that I still occasionally play,
Mm.
because like most composers, most creators, they will be playing the more recent things. I do mix my programs with some older and some newer, but that one goes way back. And yeah, it's a kind of a something that's been following me through my whole career, this
Well,
piece,
I
yeah.
gotta think it's like a crowd pleaser because I mean you can't not pay attention to it. I mean it really captures the your attention immediately. And
Well, from the old days, with my mookies here and my muscles, and as a young man in my open t-shirts, there was, I suppose, a slight visual effect, but that has unfortunately also.
yeah. Well, it's a good, with a good effect overall. So let's do this. I'm going to play this now. This is transitions. We won't be able to hear all of it, but I think we'll
Yeah.
be able to get a lot of it. And I have to apologize in advance to my audience that because this is YouTube, sometimes in spite of everything I've done, ads may pop up. So we'll have to edit those out in the archive if they do. But I've kind of pre-watched everything and removed the ads. Hopefully, let's see what happens here. This is transitions. Amazing, amazing. I have to ask you, is the sheet music available for this? Because I noticed it says sheet music. Is it still there?
No, unfortunately, this was they were. I think I made like at that time 3 or 4 videos. The other ones were written out. There was sheet music for those. This one they just kind of added to that for advertisement for this.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but
There is a group in England that if you send the audio to them, they will do it for you. They'll transcribe it.
uh,
I
I
have to
prefer.
admit, that's what I do. I kind of cheat and do that. But do you actually write out some of your own music by hand?
I write all of my music first by hand. Yeah, all
Oh, you
the
do?
symphonic stuff, all the songs, everything's back here. I've blurred it a little bit, but there's
Yeah.
quite music back there. But this kind of stuff is I don't write at all. I mean, I would say 95% of the music I play, I don't write at all. I just have it by heart. But in the case that I'm writing for, chamber music or for someone else, or orchestrated music, then I will write it down. Yeah, and first, always by hand, always in the thought
Really? Wow.
by hand.
And so when you're writing for an orchestra, or you had one piece, for example, with two pianos and some other instruments. Uh, as you write the music, are you doing it on the keyboard? Do you do it kind of in your head? Do you kind of figure it out on the keyboard, or do you have like perfect pitch and you just know all the notes and
Yeah. Well, I am pretty dependent on the piano, but not completely. So
hmm
it's usually, it will be different times. Sometimes the ideas will come about through playing, right? But very often in the orchestral things that I wrote, it was an idea that I had in my head, a more general thing, general developments happening. Then
Yeah.
I sketch them in a very general way,
Mm.
and find them, kind of put them through like a strainer until it becomes more and more clear. And then I take the score from the piano and write the rest in. So
That's
it's kind
really very
of
interesting. Yeah.
ideas, and then really the sketches, nobody, they're complete. They're so ugly too. They're just scribbled sketches. Only I understand what's
I
in there.
love that. Are they actually like just more graphic than they are notes?
No, they're notes, but then double, do this 5, 6 or 6 times under here, an arrow,
Yes.
then
Yeah.
come back, and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Just like when I give my workshops on improvisation, I do something that I unfortunately rarely see other people doing. I'd like to give this little tip because when you're doing these, listening to people improvise, they generally have like a 5 minute thing, and then they kind of stop. The whole idea of the larger structure, I think, is very, very important, and
Mm.
which is one reason why I don't do whole evenings of piano free improvisation, because it turns into something that I feel is very amorphic.
Mm.
So I do like to have things bundled and tightened and kind of, they don't have to be overly structured, but like a book, oh, I remember that character, the 5 chapters later.
Right.
Some kind of longer structures appeal to me. Another reason why jazz has never really been my favorite
How
genre.
would you describe yourself? I call you a kind of a modern and classical, but how would you describe your music?
I do, yeah.
Hmm. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were agreeing with me. Okay, it's your music, please. Okay, so this is called Autumn Music. It's a homage to Scriabin. So, and actually, we could play all this is I guess a segment of it. It's 2 minutes, so we'll play all of this. emotion there. Oh my
Yeah.
God, a lot of emotion. Um, yeah, and it goes on. There's a lot more to it. So the 7 minutes, I encourage
It's a
people to
lot,
listen to it.
it stops at a certain point where you feel that the flow is gone and sticks there. That's where the communication was disrupted. And at the
Ah,
same time, there's another thing that comes later. Actually, on a purely kind of, if it wasn't all for this psychological turmoil, on a purely humoristic, creative level, we had a lot of fun with each other. So there's
yeah.
also kind of a fun part. But let's just say altogether, the relationship was disturbed, to say the least, disturbed.
Mm,
Oh,
that
My,
topic.
my mother had a terrible, terrible childhood. Just to relativize everything I'm saying and all the that's
Yeah.
that's where actually but this is just my personal expression of this situation.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of musicians come from places that need expression, and this clearly, this you're expressing. Now, this next one's completely different, written for cello and piano, and it's a fairly short piece. We can listen to all of it. I think it's about 3 minutes. So, anything you want to say about that before I turn that on?
Well, it's probably longer. You probably have only one part of it in
Oh,
YouTube,
that's what it is. Yes. Yeah.
but it's an excerpt. It's an excerpt. I think you've got. Well, I wrote something called Three Images for Cello and Piano. So the first part is called Swaggering and Swaying and Staggering. Sorry. The second one is Serene, and the third one's probably the one you have. Is called On the Chase. Is that correct? You've got On the Chase there.
Actually, I've got, yes, exactly. So it's a shorter piece. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, it's short, but this is still just an excerpt. This is my wife at the piano and a wonderful cellist from Hungary, Agnes Kalai.
Oh, wonderful. And your wife and you sometimes do tours together.
We haven't, yeah, toured would be wrong, but
Oh,
occasional. Sometimes there's a
concert.
Mozart program where I play my homage music to Mozart and
Uh-huh.
improvise, and she plays the original.
Mm.
And we
Hmm.
have done dual piano stuff, which has been a whole lot of fun, but we do it very, very rarely.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Uh, Unfortunately, we have to find more time to get that stuff moving.
Well, it's hard to find them all the time when you do so many things. You do so many things. Okay, so this is 3 images, and this is just one of them on Chase. Wow, that's wonderful. Wonderful. Hmm. That's just an extra. How long is that whole piece?
The
Is it?
whole three images. I mean, these it's not really. You could see it as a kind of a sonata, but it's actually really three separate pieces. You can play them as a as a kind of whole larger piece or separately. If you
Uh-huh.
played all three of them, the second one, the slow one, is pretty long, so you'd come up with about 20 minutes.
Hmm.
Yeah, and
Now,
this has unfortunately never been recorded. This is still something has to be done.
oh wow. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it would be great. Yeah. Beautiful. That was just great. And obviously not easy to play. Your
Mhm.
wife is very accomplished.
Very, very, very accomplished.
Yeah, yeah. Did you guys meet in college or how did you two cross paths?
Oh no, this is a little bit more recent. Not
Oh, okay.
that recent, but college, that was 50 years ago.
Yes, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Really,
Okay.
really, no lie, right? 50 years ago. So,
Mm,
no, we met in Croatia. Her sister had engaged me and my quartet. My sister is also a pianist, Terezia Cukrov. And this is Martina, by the way, Martina Cukrov Jarrett.
hmm
And we met after my concert with my quartet in Croatia,
mm,
some 20 years back.
mm.
Yeah.
Excellent. Now this next piece is so you partnered up with Erwin Ditzner, and this is a drummer, and you did a bunch of work with him. I think this is a very interesting piece. I don't know what this is called. I apologize, but it's
This is yeah, I don't even think it's written. This is actually also a relatively old piece, but I rearranged it many times so it doesn't sound like the original. It was originally an orchestral piece, was supposed to be a ballet for
oh
in
really?
the old Soviet days. I got a commission from the Kazakh government in the Soviet Union, wanted to do some cultural work together with the West, and he actually commissioned this piece. And when Gorbachev came, which was after that, everything turned around and everybody got fired and everything changed, and it never
Wow.
happened. So I kept some of the music from that orchestral score,
Mm,
did piano version with it, and also many other versions. And this is with Erwin Ditzner. But this is very recent concert. It's like a year ago.
yeah,
It's just dance.
it's beautiful. Now it's about 3 minutes, so we'll watch the whole thing. I just love there's something about the lighting for one thing. It's like surrealistic and dreamy, but the music is amazing. The two of you play off each other so well. Did you actually develop it with him, or did you say this is my piece and he just filled it in?
What now? The piece with him.
Yeah, I mean, did you basically play it and he just filled in, or did the two of you kind of work on it together? Because it looks like it's so interwoven with his drumming and your
Uh,
playing.
we practiced it a little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
We have a whole program. We just actually just 5 months ago we did not a tour, but we played a really very successful concert at a festival in Romania in the castle that is well, they call it Dracula's castle. It's not actually his
Oh, no
castle.
kidding. Yeah.
It's the one in Romania, the biggest one in the style that was described by Bram Stoker. And inside one of the, you know, squares inside the
Wow.
castle, but outside at the same time, we
Yeah.
performed. They really loved it down there. I have to say, I can't wait to get back
Well, by the
to.
way, I didn't mention this in the interview yet, but we talked earlier. You've played in so many places, Australia and Indonesia, Singapore, around the world. It's just amazing. You listen to the itinerary. You've played almost everywhere, and the States too. So I mean, you really got around a lot and are getting around a lot. So I hope to find a way to see you in person sometime because this is just amazing. So
Yeah.
now this next piece is very different. It's reserved. It's called Gloomy Chanting.
Mhm.
And who are you playing with here? Who's it? Who's the? Is it the trio or?
No, I
Uh,
did solo, Gloomy
this
Chanting.
is solo. Okay, this is solo. So this is a beautiful piece, and again, I'm not sure we're going to be able to play all of it. No, we can't play all of it, but we'll play enough to get people
Wait a
to.
little bit till the chords come. That would be important.
Okay,
Yeah.
and then is there any setup you want to do? Talk about it before we actually jump into
Well,
it.
it is exactly what it's that by the way, that is a good point now to make. You know, if I write some music, I will, you know, you can really throw me in the garbage can if I call it a sunny day or, you know, just love you, what a wonder, or, you know, I don't know, picking my nose at the harbor or whatever.
Yeah, yeah,
My titles, and that's the kind of the classical side. They either they describe the music like dance or, you know, or you know, or they describe exactly what the music is. And there's
right, right.
also the
Yeah.
songs when I write them, which is, you know, what I've been doing more recently, writing songs for baritone and piano. You know, the music is the text. I get sometimes a little bit bewildered when people, you know, don't see any connection between life and music, or between a title and music, or between text and music. So it is exactly that. It's me
Yes.
gloomy chanting.
Okay. Those are beautiful chords. As you compose, do you know what the chords are always going to be, or do you kind of play around and find what works? So how do you do that?
Well, I mean, there is a lot of improvisation in my music. I mean, I
Mm,
don't know, high percentage. So no,
mm,
this has some basic rules
mm-hmm,
what I'm going to play, and that chorale, dun, 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 that's going to be there, and this
mm.
is going to be there, and also the fourth that's kind of biting at that fifth.
Yes, yeah.
The rest is this is a question of my mood, right? What I play.
I,
So
I also I don't know if you think in modalities at all, but I kind of heard some like sometimes I hear in some of your music an Arabian modality, almost like an Arabian scale. I'm not sure if that's conscious or just coming out
well,
because it's a minor
I
key or
use I use all kinds of modes. I make my own scales, but
yeah.
also, I also did perform with a lot of Arabic musicians. So,
Mm-hmm.
but the
Mm.
funny thing was, I had a knack for it before I began and didn't know why, and discovered many years later. I realized that I had been listening to a lot of Middle Age music from the Middle Ages.
Ah.
Boy, and the connection was immediately there when I heard the Arabic music, and I only figured that out like 10, 20 years later. But yeah, yeah. But I played in Tunisia with many great Arabic musicians, and in Tunisia, Morocco, and Egypt, and
Mm.
so I do know my way around. I could actually give lessons in that to a certain extent.
Yeah.
So yeah, that anything comes in there that I feel um, would benefit my expression, right? So
Mm. Now you've been doing some work recently with organ. I want to play this New Journeys organ concert, a little bit of this. Do you want to give us a little background on that before I set it up?
well, I do just want to say a few words that I've actually in the last, let's say, well, Corona was a little bit weird, the Corona period, but in the last
Mm.
6, 7 years, I think I've been playing more organ, more church organ, pipe organ than piano as far as concerts are concerned.
Mm.
These are free improvisations, where the piano pieces are more or less kind of closed up with improvised parts. The organ music is registered. I look for search for registers. I sit
Yeah.
at the organ for a long time before the concert and figure out some framework. But these concerts are actually, straightforward improvisations that are not tied into little pieces. And
So this is
I
about
do
a
it a lot.
40, this is a 40-minute set, but there's a part that you picked out that I absolutely love, and
Yeah.
we'll start playing that right here in the middle.
I'm glad you like it, Andrew.
Oh my God. How can I not?
Yeah, well.
I'm just impressed that you can go on for like 40 minutes in an improv. It's just now you teach improv, so um, how do you think about, are you in your mind kind of have this pathway going forward in a rough way, and then you kind of fill it in with the kinds of discipline that you have and ideas and along the way, and kind of some messaging or something like that, or
Well,
how would you?
first, two very quick things. That gloomy chanting that was recorded in the house where Handel was born, by the way.
Oh, right, yes, yeah.
Wanted to mention that, and this was done in a very important church. It's the Monument Church of the Protestants in Speyer, with a
Hmm.
five keyboards.
I
Or
saw that. Amazing. Yeah,
yeah,
impressive.
and it's a very beautiful church. And, was a special evening also because of
Hmm.
the architecture, because of the place.
Yeah.
Uh, the question to the improvisation. I try to break the stereotype that people might have that improvisers are chaotic, chaotic minds. It's actually exactly the opposite.
Yeah.
What happens is I have a natural tendency to order things. My wife could scream about it, of course, and and she does, and there is a bad side to that. But I have a natural tendency that also comes from a troubled childhood or from a chaotic situation of
Hmm.
the family,
Hmm.
which forces you as a child to learn how to take the worst, craziest chaos and put it into some kind of sense, make sense out of it.
So you
So
have a gift and a curse at the same time.
yeah, that's it. Well, I think, well, of course, obviously Keith has the same thing. His childhood was also difficult, but maybe not quite as tough as mine. But we
Yeah.
don't want to compete about that. But the the fact is, it's a sense of order. Improvisation, if it's supposed to be successful, meaning that it it does something, it tells a story, it makes sense in an emotional or in an intellectual way, is done when you're someone who will take any kind of chaos and put it into order, and it's almost a force, So it
Hmm.
rarely doesn't work, but of course, with the organ, you have to pre-calculate the registration. You can't just, I mean, you can, but it's actually a waste of time to go there and just try it out while the
Yeah.
other sitting there because you lose potential.
Now let's talk about your English songs. Is this the series that has like 300 pages of sheet music that you put together
That's it.
with all
Yeah.
these different poets? This particular one is by John Dryden, Absalom, and Achitophel. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. I can read the first stanza of it. The bad found no occasion to rebel, but when to sin or bias nature's lean, the careful devil is still at hand with means, and providently pimps for ill desires. The good old cause revived a plot requires. Plots, true or false, are necessary things to raise up commonwealths and ruin kings. You want to tell us a little bit more about that story?
Well, just those four lines, if you ask me, who loves old poetry and always reads, yeah, the validity of the poetry, describes exactly the situation that you guys in the US right now have.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
God help us.
the bad have no occasion to rebel, so they have to find one, right? And
Right.
they have to vent somehow in this destructive sense of venting. Some people have reason to vent, but here
Yeah.
it's searching for a plot in order to get out their hostilities, and
Mm.
they search for a plot, they find a plot, and it doesn't matter how horrendous or illogical or irrational this plot is, they have to they will follow it. And this is Dryden's description of a political situation in Britain at that time. So let's be at least comforted at that fact. This kind of situation, exactly the one in the US right now, has happened, many, many, many times before.
Yeah,
Almost
that's not actually comforting to me. I'm just wishing that we somehow would evolve and not have that anymore. But
that's it. And also
yeah.
the scale is very large because of the because of the enormous power that the US
Yes, exactly, exactly.
but
Well, not
but
getting too political, but this is a great piece,
yeah.
and so let's play some of this, and we can't play all of it, but we'll play some of it.
Mhm.
the band from no occasion to repair, but when to sing a pious picture means. The careful devil is still at hand with means, and providently peeps, for he'll his eyes, the good old cause revived, but what requires plots, true false, unnecessary things, to raise a commonwealth and ruin kings.
You just feel the angst and the power behind that. And by the way, I want to comment too on this album cover. You've got this strong wind coming through from the right, and this little lonely soul trying to walk its way into it. Tell me about this painting. Who did this? Do you know?
That's a painting, German painting. It's a guy, if I remember correctly, Rothmann is his name. He painted at the same time that Hölderlin lived. That's the author of the German poems that
Ah, uh-huh.
Hölderlin songs.
Hmm.
Hölderlin is, you could say, the fourth most prominent German poet is Goethe,
Mm.
Schiller, uh, Heine, and Hölderlin. And I love Hölderlin. And also, so this is a painting from the same period as Hölderlin, and it describes about a fourth of of the CD in as to the atmosphere. There's some very lonely pieces on this, and also there's one which describes some scene in the First World War. So and I love the painting. It's a very, very beautiful painting. But
Mm.
Rothman, yeah, I think his name is Rothman. I would have to check
Yeah.
that.
Well, very appropriate for for that song too. Now, this is another piece from your quartet, Mirrored, and this is more meditative. And again, it goes on for about 9 minutes, but we can only play some of it. But I thought I'd give people a good taste of this as well. love the way you riff. You and the guitars riff back and forth. That's really great. That's a lot of fun.
Yeah. Yeah, something, maybe that's a word also that I'd like to let go of in this interview. It's so important on stage for classical musicians too to communicate. I just, I can't believe it when I see, children or young people standing there, violin and piano, and they, completely turning their backs to one another.
Yeah,
It's so absurd, It's
yeah,
really,
yeah.
I mean,
They're in their own world.
yeah, to have, of course, it depends on the piece, at least sometimes a view, a look, something to realize that these are two people making music together. And
Yeah,
I absolutely insist on that when I'm working with other people.
I love it. I love it. Well, we'll do one more piece, and I thought maybe we'd end with Fractures, if that's okay with you. I think that's a wonderful piece. And do you want to give us a little background on this before I jump into it?
Well, I did want to say just quickly, it's too bad there are professional videos of my music here and there. This I also, we chose these pieces, which is fine. Just that the viewers don't think everything has been done with some kind of a cell phone. I actually don't have anything against that if it gives some atmosphere, but there are, of course, there's a myriad of professional videos of some of the songs, of some of the
Hmm.
solo music, and semi-professional ones of some, live concerts. So not that the audience or the watcher
And
thinks,
where do you want to point people besides your website, by the way, which is
yeah,
chrisjarrett.de? Are there any other places where they can find some of your, performances?
yeah. Well, I'm doing next year. You can find until now it hasn't been published on my uh, on my homepage. I just came
Yeah,
back. I mean, that's half a year ago. I was in the U.S.
yeah,
was
yeah.
was an interesting concert. I was very happy to be able to do that.
Hmm.
But I think the thing I would really accent right now is what I recently finished is the writing of these 16 songs, which are
Yes.
lyrics by Wordsworth, by Byron, by Dryden, by Donne, by Eliot, and a modern poet, Alvarez, an English poet who I love very much. It's quite a thing. I'm trying to contact very very good musicians about this, musicians and also venues about performing this, and I think it has a lot of potential for for people who love art songs. So
Mm.
anyway, that I did, and the CD is very new. This last one with the song that's been out since July. So I of course would enjoy people checking it out and even perhaps purchasing it.
Yes, there you go.
So, but the idea of the art songs, that's what's on my mind right now. I'm doing
Hmm.
actually more organ concerts, art song concerts than solo at the moment. And for the last 40 years, which is how long my career has been going on,
Mm.
it was the majority was solo concerts, like
Yeah,
70, 80% until like 10 years ago. So there's some changes and some at this point in my life, it's a very good idea, I think, to get into texts, to get into literature,
yeah,
which you know tells people not only how they think I feel, but it also describes in more detail about some of the ideas that I think are very important to express right now. That, for instance,
mm.
song about war that in 19 was written in 1914 or 15, I think, was a gas attack, and unfortunately, those are things that have to do with our lives today too. So the songs are a way of taking great poetry and transmitting it to a modern audience.
Yeah.
That's something I think is very important. The
By the
fractures.
way, where should people, how do you want people to buy this? You want them to buy the CD, and where should they do that? Is that,
It's all over the place. It's in
yeah,
every country in the world,
yeah,
either on Amazon or Spotify. Of course, you can buy it like that. But the
yes,
the real CD you can get basically from Japan to Canada.
excellent,
It's
excellent.
available, but it's on a very very good label. Let me put it. This label is wonderful, and the people who run it are wonderful. And
Da Vinci, yeah.
that's something not very many musicians are in a position to say that they're working with
Congratulations. Yes, that's a big win there. That's wonderful.
fantastic company. Very
Yeah,
open-minded, very, very fair. And
Mm.
so you can check Da Vinci too. There's a whole big range of music that they're offering. They have thousands of
Yes,
CDs.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay, do you want to say anything about fractures before we get into that?
Fractures is exactly what it's called, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Exactly what it's called. And it's about ooh, no, 10, a little more than 10 years old. But I just recently put it back into my program because I think it's not a bad piece. That's it.
That's a great piece. Great piece.
Right?
We're gonna listen to some of it now. Do you have sheet music for this?
No, 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 no.
Oh, you don't? Oh my God, I would pay for that. I would love to learn to play that. That is an amazing piece. Oh my God, the technique you have is incomparable. Just really love it. I got to thank you so much for your time, Chris. This has been a
You're
wonderful
welcome, Andrew.
hour.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation. Very, very much. Thank you.
Oh my God, I'm very pleased that this is such a nice interview. I look forward. We'll get this online. First of all, it'll be premiered, Thursday night. We'll also get up on the internet. I'll also be on Spotify at some point, Spotify podcasts, and I'm hoping that you can use it in the future to continue to, advertise who you are in the world. And I hope that you get, a lot of great press out of this future, and just look forward to seeing all the new stuff that you're doing. It's very exciting, and I
I
hope
hope
someday I actually see you live. That's my goal.
I'm working on it. I'm working on it.
Yeah, that's
I'm working on
wonderful.
it. Okay. Well, thank
Anyway,
you again for the invitation, and also let's thank Stephanie who brought us together. Stephanie, I say it in German because it's such a German name, Stephanie.
mm,
But let's thank you
yes,
for
I'm
the,
indebted to her for doing that. Thank you. You have a
yeah,
great night,
yeah,
and look forward to keeping in touch.
yeah.
Thanks very
Ciao.
much.
Bye.
Ciao.